You see the Met Gala?
Yes.
All the servants are wearing masks and all the elites aren't.
Yep.
The funniest thing possible. So a lot of people are ragging on AOC because she had this dress saying tax the rich at a $30,000 event. But I'll tell you what, the funniest thing I saw was the video of her leaving the event where everyone's cheering and screaming and she's waving as a staff member is carrying her dress from behind for her while wearing a mask. And I'm like, nothing says cyber nightmare dystopia like the leftist wearing a fancy tax the rich dress at a $35,000 per ticket event as everyone celebrates and cheers for her and her masked servant carries her dress for her on the way out. Amazing.
The thing is, dude, this has been happening all the way. Remember Gavin Newsom and his French Laundry dinner? You had Barack Obama's birthday party recently. You've had these governors and mayors going on vacations and holidays. In the UK, there have been the scandals there too. And here's the problem, man. Pointing out hypocrisy is only effective on people who actually have principles.
Or scruples.
Right?
True.
So if I do something that's deeply hypocritical and someone points it out, I have to check myself, right? Because I have principles. I'm like, oh, you're right. You know, like I'm not practicing what I preach here, right? Like I did something wrong. But open there's no greater flex of power and authoritarianism than open hypocrisy. And we know this, right? Yep. Last year, I went to Romania for a couple months. And I was in Bucharest, where you have a lot of people don't know, the second biggest building in the world after the Pentagon is the presidential palace.
Really?
In Bucharest,
Wow.
yes. Built by Nicolae Ceausescu.
Wow.
Their last communist dictator. So the building, I believe, was finished in 91. I think he was killed in 89, so he never lived to see the completion. This if you go inside this, the opulence, the decadence, keep in mind this is all built during the communist era, and you've got all the communist buildings around. He displaced over 20,000 citizens to build this building. So he demolished the homes of 20,000 people to create this monstrosity in the center of Bucharest, which he never even lived to see. But there's gold on the ceilings. There's over 1,000 rooms. There's 6 floors. When you see the building, keep in mind there's another 6 floors underground.
Ooh. Wow.
Right? The building is so heavy that it drops a couple centimeters.
What's it called?
Every year. The Presidential Palace in Bucharest. Look up this place. It's gigantic. I believe it's the second biggest building after the Pentagon in terms of overall floor space. This thing is It's insane.
What do they have? What does it do now? What do they use it for?
They use it a little bit for media. They do use it for some government activities. You can take tours of it, but a lot of it, I think, is just it's gigantic. Over 1,000 rooms. I mean, the size of this place is unreal. You walk in one room and it's like a football field.
I just watched the video of Ceausescu getting executed 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. He and his wife, and I mean, they were like up into the moment, up against the wall, and the woman was like, still like, "You're the problem. You're wrong," and they're wearing their nice clothes.
Yeah, it was on Christmas Day, I think, 1989.
It was televised. Yeah.
Jeez. And I mean, look, we know this. You know that under communism, the rulers are the rulers do okay. The rulers are very wealthy. And they're living in luxury, and yet everyone else is starving and living in squalor.
So you think Ceausescu was like a prime example of a hypocrite?
Obviously. I mean, I think, as far as I'm aware, all the communist leaders were, right? I mean, they were living lives of luxury and telling everyone else that, they all need to be equal and have their rations and live in squalor and live in famine.
But they were convincing themselves that they needed the things that they were getting.
Yeah, I mean, so it's the same mentality, right? The same has happened. I mean, moving away from communism, just look at dictatorships, right? When you've had dictatorships, whether in parts of Africa or in the Middle East or in South America, the people at the top are balling. They're 100 million billionaires. Yep. And meanwhile, people are just living in absolute squalor. You got something to say?
4 million square feet.
There you
this
go.
building.
Holy cow.
How many?
In Romania.
3,930,000 square feet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How many floors was it again?
It's
You
like
said
a
6
city.
underground?
I want to say it's about 12 floors, maybe.
Yeah, it's
something
footprint.
like that.
It's a massive footprint.
It's huge. It takes an hour to walk around it takes an hour to walk around
Wow.
not just the like the perimeter.
I think that's bigger than my college campus. It's about the same size.
Huge.
It's like State University.
It's huge.
Its volume is 2.5 million cubic meters.
Holy cow!
It weighs 4 billion kilograms.
What?
I'm glad they have these
9
analytics.
billion pounds. 4.10 million tons. We often think about the biggest building vertically.
Yeah.
No, but this is
It's huge.
Girthy.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
It's huge. If you ever go to Bucharest, like
I'm going for sure.
Yeah, I gotta go.
it's worth checking this place out. And there's even tunnels. There's tunnels that go from there to. Apparently, the tunnels underneath are so big you can drive a tank through them.
So they say it's the palace is worth 4 billion euro, making it the most expensive administrative building in the world. The cost of heating, electricity, and lighting alone exceeds $6 million per year, comparable to the total cost of powering a medium-sized city. Amazing.
Wow. One building.
So to your point, getting to openly flaunt the rules. That's what this is all about.
That's a power flex. I mean, what's a greater flex of power than open hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
Telling people one thing and you're openly doing another.
I saw this photo. There's an article in The Spectator. It says, COVID rules are for the serfs, not for the celebrities.
It's true.
And it's a picture of Kamala Harris' stepdaughter and some other actress or whatever. And I'm just like, bro, it's the capital city from the Hunger Games. And that's the one thing I hate the most, more than anything. Probably having grown up in the south side of Chicago, seeing all of the ultra well-off, hoity-toity people, and the people I knew from the suburbs who had good families and came from wealth. And I'm just like, I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you got nice clothes. I care if you treat other people with respect.
Yes.
Seeing people mistreat waiting staff, seeing them mistreat janitors, seeing the staff at this event all being forced to wear masks while they flaunt their wealth with their ridiculous costumes. I'm like, yo, these are the worst people.
It is. It's the same reason why Woko Haram are so are so
love it.
annoying, right?
You're waiting for that one,
right? these woke people, they're so insufferable because they'll go on rants about white supremacy and being anti-racist and whatever, and then a black person disagrees with them, and they're the ones calling them racial slurs.
Yep.
Or they're the ones literally
discriminate.
Yeah. I've experienced it, right? Yeah. They're the ones literally discriminating against people based on race. A few months ago, what was a big conversation here in the USA? What was it that was racist? Voter ID.
Yes.
Okay. Which is the least vaccinated group in the USA in terms of demographics?
Is it black people?
It's black people, right? Less than half the black people in New York City, I believe, have taken the shots. Okay? And now the same people who are saying that voter ID is racist are now pushing for vaccine passports.
No, it's Vax ID. You need you need an actual government
ID.
ID.
And you need an ID as well, right?
Yep.
So you need the proof of vaccination, and you need an ID, and that very disproportionately that's gonna you've effectively banned most black people in New York City from restaurants, from gyms, from whatever. And this is the same people who less than a year ago are talking about voter ID being racist.
They're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Right now you've got the Republicans with they just passed the voter bill in Texas, which included a voter ID for mail-in voting, and they're like, it's racist.
Yep.
And so I tweeted, Vaxxer ID is racist.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you, a lot of people were like, oh, you're so dumb. And I'm like, bro, what? I'm not talking about vaccine passports. I'm talking about Vaxxer ID. Vaxxer ID is where in New York City, to enter a building, you need a physical state-issued ID with your picture on it. You also need proof of vaccination, but they're separate. So how are you going to sit there and be like, voter ID is racist? I'm like, I agree. Vaxxer ID is racist too. And they're like, shut your mouth.
This is the thing. I mean, come on. Going to a $30,000 ticketed event wearing a dress saying tax the rich. Like, I mean, this is the thing. But the hypocrisy almost, to someone like that, it doesn't even matter because they've got their legions of sycophants who, no matter what they do and all this open hypocrisy, they're still like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, slay, whatever. And it's just like, that's why I just can't take these people seriously.
I look at when I first saw what AOC did, I didn't immediately jump on the like, oh, everyone's slamming her for going to the Met. I'm like, look, I got invited to the Clinton Gala.
Sure.
And it was a black tie affair. And I said, I ain't going to wear a black tie. I'm going to wear a sweater and a beanie. And they said, you can't come. I said, then I'm not coming.
Yeah.
And so if they said I could, I'd be like, I'm showing up
Sure.
to this place with all these rich people and I'm going to wear my normal clothes. I got no problem. And so, you know, when I see AOC, she's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to wear tax the rich. I'm like, to a certain extent, I would find that actually acceptable as a good form of protest to show up and be like in your faces. The problem is she wasn't there protesting.
No.
She was there enjoying her meal, celebrating and smiling with celebrities, waving to everybody, and she was accepting a bribe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mince words. AOC took a bribe. It was a $35,000 ticket. Now, how do they get around it? It's a charity event.
Of course.
So there's no real value. Except us plebs can't, well, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. But regular people can't get in. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm some like poor person who couldn't afford to go. No, the reality is I still think the elitism is a problem. And yes, even if I am well off, I'm still rather lefty on a lot of these issues. And I am disgusted by the hypocrisy of AOC because she is a faux leftist.
Yes.
She doesn't actually care about elitism. She wants to celebrate with these people. She wants to be one of them. She wants to be with them. How dare she have that man carry her dress in the mask? That sickens me.
Yeah.
Don't come to me and pretend like she was doing any activism. No, that was her excuse to be like, well, I was protesting. No, you weren't. Show up, pull the cloth off the table, knock over some drinks, give them the finger, and say, I don't care for your stupid garbage events. You don't care about any of these people. Look what you're doing to all the staff and making them do while you don't wear masks. You're hypocrites.
Yep.
No, she didn't protest.
No.
She enjoyed her meal and she left.
And I think people also need to know that there's a difference between being an elite and being an elitist. Right? You can have people who are elitists and they're not elite. They're not part of that class. And you can have people who are in the elite class. They're worth 100 million plus. They're billionaires, but they're not elitists. Right? So
Joe Rogan.
Perfect example.
Great example.
He's not an elitist. Right? He's an elite. Absolutely. By any sort of measure, he'd be considered an elite. But he's not an elitist. On a bigger level, I would actually say that people like Trump for that.
Yep.
Right? Donald Trump is an elite. He's a multi-billionaire. Right? He's not living like I said, but he's not an elitist who holds his nose and he sees these people in middle America and people in the working class and he's just like, you know, insulting Don Lemon is an elitist.
Yep.
Right? He's not as elite as Trump, but he's an elitist, right? He will look down at and insult even on TV half of the American population.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps more. Right? And that's why people like that are so insufferable, because it's not the fact that, oh, you've got money or you're successful. It's like, no, that's cool. But you can have money and be successful and not look down on humanity in general.
We need people like that. Those founding fathers were like that too.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party is the party of Globo Jim. You know Globo Jim?
Yeah.
We're better than you, and we know it.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I see them. Now, don't get me wrong. The Republican Party used to be the same thing until Trump kicked the door in and said, I'm having a well-done steak with ketchup. And he got made fun of for it.
Yeah.
So that's actually such a good example. You know?
It really is. It's the perfect example. And Trump played the media so well because they made fun of him for doing it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, regular middle Americans eating their garbage dollar steaks from the Save-On are like, this is how I like my steak. Trump was trying to be a man of the people. He was trying to say to them, look, I'll be like you. It's a common political tactic, mind you. But you look at what the Democrats, they've always tried to be the party of limousine liberals. Meanwhile, they claim Republicans, they support cutting taxes for the billionaires because they think they'll be rich, but they're wrong. And it's like, bro, you do the exact same thing. You're sitting here with these celebrities going to the Met Gala where they have no COVID rules, and you do, and you're licking their boots. Maybe if you took the boot out of your mouth, you'd be able to smell and see what was going on, but you're smelling all their stanky feet. So what can I say?
No doubt. And it's the same reason why people find so much of Hollywood and celebrities just insufferable. It's not because they're rich or because they're famous or they're successful. Kudos for that. That's awesome. It's when they're sneering and looking down at and literally openly just mocking huge swathes of people. Oftentimes people who have actually put them in that position of success, right? I mean, it's not that, the only people who watch movies are wealthy elites. It's like, no, like everyone watches movies, everyone plays video games, different people read comic books, whatever. So when you have that audience and you're openly hostile towards them, it really rubs people the wrong way. And I don't know if maybe they do some of that unintentionally or if it's intentional, but I think that's part of what led to the backlash. I think in 2016, both in the UK with the Brexit situation and with Trump, I think a lot of that was cultural backlash. It wasn't purely politics. Politics was a part of it. The economy was a part of it. but it's also just people like, look, I'm tired of you guys like just talking to us like that and treating us like that. So you know what? This guy ain't perfect or this thing ain't perfect, but we're gonna go for that.
You know, I've been thinking more and more about. I've always kind of felt this way. Like I mentioned, the elites at the Met Gala, the capital city, the Hunger Games, and just like the snooty behavior. I've known people my whole life who just have this attitude of I'm better than you and I know it. You've seen them all around, and I can't stand it. I despise those people. And so when I see a lot of the high profile people who are supposedly opposed to that, who have massive wealth, and then use that wealth to buy themselves stuff, infinity pools and condos and fancy stuff, I'm just like, why? Like, you know,
like Rogan with his cars because he wants it. It's his FU money. Do whatever you want with your money.
That's true. I completely agree with that. I just wonder why it is Joe doesn't just find somebody who's like advocacy. Maybe he is. I don't want to throw anything at anybody who's be it AOC or otherwise who's donating and doing charity behind the scenes. Hassan Piker bought was it $3 million house, and they were like, why aren't you giving to charity? He's like, I am. I just don't publicize. I'm like, that's fair because I give a lot too. But I just look into a lot of these people, Hassan included. Left or right, I don't care. If you're making millions of dollars, why aren't you building stuff with it?
Yeah.
So like we have this, we have the vlog and we have the $1 million skate mansion, we call it. But like we've reached capacity basically in this house with how many people we're staffing and hiring, bringing people in, and just being like, do your thing and make good stuff, and we're going to try and build something. And now we're looking at buying a venue because the goal is not to have money to load up a garage full of sports cars or to get myself an infinity pool in a luxury condo in DC or anything like that. I'm like, I want to just hire people. It's not super easy to do. But my point is, I look at a lot of these ultra rich people buying yachts and stuff. I guess I get it when you have so much money. It's like, what do you do anyway?
Yeah.
But it really is hard to manage. I just wonder why it is that there's so many people who are active in politics, who are extremely well off, who don't do anything beyond their shtick.
Because it comes down to their principles and values. Everyone has a different principles and a different value system. And I think that when it comes to money and power, I believe that those are primarily amplifiers, right? They're enablers. So if you are, if you're naturally a fairly genuinely generous person who cares about like helping others and building and helping up, right? And you come into a lot of money or power, that will be amplified, and you will then have the means to help. Oh, cool! I can help even more people now. I can build even more now. Whatever, right? I think that's your position. But if you take someone, it's an amplifier, right? If you take someone who's a little bit of an alcoholic or a little bit of a drug addict, and you give them like millions of dollars, what's going to happen, right? They become a major alcoholic. They become a major drug addict. If you take someone who's a little bit got authoritarian tendencies and likes to tell people what to do and bully people and whatever, if they have not a lot of money, power, and status, then they're kept in check because they don't have the capacity to do a lot of harm, right? So look at crazy dictators, whether you're looking at the Saddam Husseins or the Gaddafis or the Idi Amins, whatever, right? Those are people who then you give them essentially limitless power and funds, and they can enact all of their crazy psychopathic stuff, right? Hitler wasn't the only Hitler out there. It's just he was the one who actually had the power and capacity to do that. And this is quite a dark thought, but there are millions of people who, if you gave them that same unchecked power, they would also commit genocide. Right? Which is scary, but those people exist. They exist, but they don't have the power and the capacity to go about and do that. And so it's a little bit of a sobering thought, but I just think that's reality.
I think I have two thoughts on this.
Sure.
One is like, I don't understand why people who have money don't do more cool stuff. You end up seeing, typically it's an issue. It's something of the left. Mackenzie Bezos gets billions, and what does she do? She just dumps billions of dollars into critical race theory and social justice. And then you have some right-wing personalities and high-profile families that are wealthy and that fund a lot of stuff. The Mercers, the Koch brothers, and things like that. I don't know what the Kochs are doing as of late, but
I think it's just one of them now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And so my point is there are a lot of very wealthy people who just choose to have whatever they want. And there's a tendency that we see on the left, hardcore political activism, Tom Steyer, Michael Bloomberg, George Soros, et cetera, Mackenzie Bezos, flooding the left with money, giving resources to all these people to support this stuff. And I don't think you have nearly as much on the right. And the same is true for the culture war. There are a lot of personalities who have moderately sized podcasts and YouTube channels that are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions plus per year. And they just put it in their pocket, put it in the bank, buy stuff for themselves and their family, and they don't invest. Meanwhile, you have left-wing activist organizations that, the way I describe it is, you've got a game of tug of war where one side is pulling with all their might, the left, and the right is just trying to stay where they are. Mm-hmm. If you're not pulling back and you're just trying to stand, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get pulled down. Yeah. So I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm like, if you're going to go out on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Twitter, and be like, these are the things I care about, I demand, blah, and you make a ton of money doing it, and then you're like, well, I'm not actually going to do anything about it, I question your integrity. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.